Welcome to Complete BS, the official podcast of couch coaches everywhere. Not just football. It's every sport that ruins your parlay, wrecks your fantasy week, and still brings you back for more. Buzzer beaters, blown leads, and brackets and flames. Yeah, we're all over it. Unfiltered takes, armchair analysis, and enough bold opinions to fill a playbook. Hosted by Brien Schmauch, sports junkie, the Saban of stats and your official voice of, I could coach better than that. Let's go.
Welcome, Couch Coach Nation. Here we are into Week 7. Let's look at some American Athletic Conference football. Tonight, we've got East Carolina going to Tulane, where the Green Wave are favored by 6.5, and both of these offenses can score. The total's set at 54.5, and it wouldn't surprise me to see this over hit and the game to be played in the low to mid-30s. Friday night, the Group of 5 is at it again. They're taking center stage with number 24, South Florida, at undefeated North Texas. USF is a 1.5-point road favorite, and I would usually go with the home underdog that's undefeated, but I think USF's been more battle-tested, and I like them to pick up the win and stay on track for a possible playoff berth. Give me the Bulls 34-27.
Man, I like those games. They're always typically back and forth, really interesting games, almost like the MACtion back in the days.
Before we get to the weekend games, there's some transfer portal news. The NCAA is moving the college football transfer portal from December to January. The new dates are January 2nd through the 16th, and that 15-day window now is when players have to enter the portal. Those teams playing for the national championship will get 5 extra days after the completion of the national championship. If your coach leaves, you used to get 30 days. That's now down to 15 days. Of course, that is as of now until the lawyers get involved and some lawsuits get filed. So we'll see how it all plays out. I think this is a good first step to try and adjust the transfer portal a little bit and make it easier for coaches to maintain and manage their rosters. But the NCAA, as always, is slow to move on things, and it's trying to get an oil tanker to make a U-turn rather than a speedboat.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the day where class is optional. You can be a student if you want to, because this is turning into a not college football like we know it. I get why they're doing it, and it makes sense. I'm not against any of this, but the transfer window is 3 weeks into the semester, and nobody seems to bat an eye at that. No school will be affected. Every school will let kids in, regardless of how many days of school they've missed. It's just semi-pro now. They're getting paid. Why make them go to class? I'm not even really joking. That will come one day, I think.
I think you're right, and they're just moving along so slowly. We'll see where it goes. We're going to start things off with the Red River Rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma. The biggest question coming into this game is John Mateer going to play? He had hand surgery on his throwing hand, and his coach says he still needs some time, but there are reports out there that he wants to play, and if he does play on Saturday, it'll be 17 days since his hand surgery. Sounds like it's going to be a game time decision. We'll see. If he can't go, Michael Hawkins Jr. replaced him against Kent State. Very overmatched Kent State team. He was okay, 14 of 24, 162 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, had some carries for 33 yards and a touchdown, so he definitely got the ball in the end zone, but it was Kent State. Both of these teams defensively are ranked towards the top of the SEC in total defense, scoring defense, and rushing defense. Texas is a little bit lower in their pass defense, whereas Oklahoma's on top. Texas started as a 2.5-point favorite in the game, and that's dropped to 1.5. It's got to be because of the question about Mateer. It surely can't be because of how Texas played against Florida last week, and yet they're the favorite. Arch Manning, he was sacked 6 times last week, threw 2 picks. He's been rattled in big games so far, but Oklahoma hasn't gotten the run game going at all this year. They've only got one game where they've had over a 100-yard rusher. They need to get the run going and either give Hawkins some help or take pressure off of Mateer, whoever starts. Where do you see this game going?
Well, I mean, you nailed it. The big question is Mateer. Michael Hawkins Jr. is elusive. I don't trust him as a passer. I mean, 14 of 24 against Kent State. Maybe he can pop a big play or two with his legs. I think Oklahoma's defense is going to hold Texas to a number that's really beatable, like 14 or 17 or something like that. And if Mateer was playing, I think OU would win by 2 touchdowns possibly. But it's a 50-50 game to me. Neutral field, question mark quarterback for both teams. Both teams have really good defenses. So it kind of comes down to intangibles. I'll ride with Oklahoma because I think at 5-0, they have more to play for right now. I think they're going to come in there more fired up than Texas will. So I'll go Oklahoma 17-14. But I would say that I feel like Texas is going to shut down their running game, which is going to make it really hard for them to score if Hawkins can't pass. But what Florida and Ball did to them last week doesn't give me confidence that they'll completely shut it down. They'll probably just slow it down.
For me, this is as much a fade of Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian as it is a pick for Oklahoma. You nailed it. I have Oklahoma winning a low defensive game, 17-14. Indiana at Oregon. And Indiana, they're a 7.5-point underdog on the road. Oregon was off last weekend. Before that, it went 2 overtimes at Penn State. And what everybody thought was an instant classic between 2 of the top teams in the country. But then Penn State goes out and lays an egg and makes you question that win against Penn State. Indiana's best win so far was versus Illinois, and they destroyed Illinois 63-10. I think the winner of this game should be in the playoff, period, even if they suffer a loss later in the year. I think that's what's on the line for this game. Winner is in the playoff. This is also a huge Heisman battle between Indiana's Fernando Mendoza and Oregon's Dante Moore. Will one of them have a big game? Will one of them have that Heisman moment and put them on top of those Heisman standings? Oregon will look to start early and keep the crowd fired up. Indiana's got to stay balanced. They're averaging 270 yards passing and 268 yards rushing. You can't get more balanced than that. Defensively, they're both ranked in the top 2 or 3 in all categories. Oregon's slightly a little bit more vulnerable to the run. How do you like this game?
I think you're right about the implications of this for the big championship game, playoff contention, all of that stuff, because neither team has a highly ranked team on their schedule. You don't know what teams might be ranked by the time you play them, but this is their last big test on paper. So I think both teams are going to be locked in. This is the same way for Texas and Oklahoma too. I really like when the head coaches like Cignetti, he's an offensive guy and their offense is lights out, and Dan Lanning's a defensive guy and their defense is typically really good. So, and you have the same thing with Sarkisian and Venables in the Oklahoma and Texas game. So to me, that's interesting. I think the big differences are talent on paper. I think Oregon just has a better roster, and it's in Oregon, right? So you got the better roster. You're playing at home. I don't know that you're better coached. I really like Cignetti as a coach, but Dan Lanning is also a really good coach. So because of those things, I'm going to lean Oregon, something like 33-27, just under a touchdown, right around a touchdown, something like that. I will say too, the other thing is last year, Indiana went on the road for 2 games against good teams and got blown out by both, or at least beaten handily by both. Now, it's hard to say that because those teams went on, I think, to play for the national championship, but they were both playoff teams. I think it was Ohio State, Notre Dame. So, like, they're really good teams, but, like, Oregon's a really good team. So, until Indiana goes on the road and beats a really good team, it would be hard for me to pick them.
Yeah, I think this is actually less than a touchdown game. If you can get Indiana at 7.5, I like that play. I love Curt Cignetti and what he's doing at Indiana, but I went against Oregon, against Penn State. I'm not about to do it again. You said 33-27. I've actually got the Ducks 31-27. So you and I are thinking right along those same lines in these games. So tell me what you got. Ohio State, Illinois. My pick will be coming up later when J Leman joins us.
So Ohio State's defense gave up 25 points. Not last week, all year long, B. 5 points a game, right? Illinois, was it Luke Altmaier? They're going to score more than 5 points, but I don't think they're going to score enough to win the game. Illinois, on the other hand, they've given up 27 points to Purdue, 32 points to USC, 63 points to Illinois, even 19 points to Duke, who had 4 turnovers that day, 3 of them in the red zone. So Ohio State's going to score. Illinois will score more than 5, but I don't think they're going to score enough to win. I've got 27-10. I don't think Ohio State's offense has been particularly explosive this year, and I don't know if that's just Julian saying not pushing the ball or they're just trying to feed Jeremiah Smith or what the issue is. They score enough to win, but they're not putting up 50, 60 points a game. So I'll go 27-10 Ohio State. Easy win. Boring game, probably.
All right, well, let's go ahead and open up the book club. AV, what do you got for us? Some sure moneymakers.
Yeah, like last week was a money-making week, B. I had a winning record. This week I've got a few games. I had the Alabama-Missouri game. When I looked at it, it was 5.5. You told me I couldn't use it because the line is now down to 2.5, and we don't do that here on Complete BS. So I'm going to scratch that game for those purposes. The game I feel really good about is UNLV minus 6.5 against Air Force. Air Force Force's defense is giving up 44 points a game. Dan Mullen scores points. I think they're going to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I don't know how it's -6.5. Get it now before it jumps up to 10. But that is my stone cold lock. A few other ones I like. I like Iowa State over Colorado -2.5. I just believe Iowa State is the better team. I like their quarterback better, their coaching staff better. They've played a good schedule, so I feel comfortable with who they are. They did lose to Cincinnati last week, which was a bit shocking, but I think Cincinnati's good. I do think Iowa State will beat Colorado, and they're only giving 2.5, so I'm going to take them. I got SMU -19 over Stanford. Stanford's got the worst offense in the ACC. They got the third worst defense in the ACC. SMU can score points, and if SMU's defense isn't being exploited by an offense, I think they pull away and win 42-14. So -19 SMU. And lastly, I'm going to ride with Dabo again. I said last week that he was going to cover against Chapel Bill, and they started out 38-3. Saturday, they're playing Boston College, -14.5 point spread. Boston College is terrible. They've lost 4 in a row to not good teams. We're talking Stanford and Cal, and they got annihilated by Pitt last week and a freshman quarterback. Clemson will score enough to put those boys away. 14.5 points. Take Clemson.
I like it. I like it. My bonus pick, South Carolina, take the points +9.5 at LSU. I know Death Valley is a tough place to play, but LSU doesn't score much. Versus P4 teams, they scored 17 on Clemson, 20 on Florida, and 7 of that was a pick 6, and 19 on Ole Miss. It's hard to cover 9.5 points when you're not scoring very much. Lenora Sellers is back. He's healthy. He should be able to keep this to a 1-score game. I'm not saying South Carolina wins, but I think it's 7 or less. Take it, South Carolina and the points. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with Illinois All-American J Leman on Complete BS. Welcome back, Couch Coach Nation. I'm excited to have Illinois legend and All-American J Leman join us on Complete BS. Jay was a local kid from Champaign Central High School, and in his senior year was named All-State in Illinois. He starred for the Illini in 2003 to 2007 and was named All-Big Ten in 2006 and 7. In 2007, he was a consensus All-American. He is ranked 6th all-time in tackles at Illinois and 5th in tackles for loss. His 152 tackles in 2006 were tops in the Big Ten and the 6th best single season for Illinois in history. He was also team captain of the 2007 team and led them to the Rose Bowl. After college, Jay signed with the Minnesota Vikings as an undrafted free agent and spent time on several NFL rosters with Carolina, San Diego, and Oakland. Jay is a frequent contributor to the Big Ten Network and a successful real estate investor and agent. Jay, it's great to have you on with us.
Man, I love it, man. Complete BS, the best name in all of college football podcasts. Complete BS. Hopefully we don't have complete BS today. We could have at least some real talk.
Absolutely. Well, I always love starting things off talking about the recruiting process, and you were a local product there in Champaign. Was it always Illinois, or did you look anywhere else?
It's so funny because I loved Andy Katzenmoyer growing up. We're talking about it's Ohio State Illinois week right now, and I love number 45 for the Buckeyes. You know, that was elite 90s linebacker swag. I don't think it's ever been better than the 90s. You had the bullhorn like face mask. You had the shiny like reflective visors in the shoe. You had big neck rolls and big pads. It was just a different era. So I really liked Ohio State. They never sent me a letter ever. In fact, I was not offered by any other school to play linebacker in the country. I was offered by Illinois State to play tight end. And then after my 8th game of my senior season, where I had a career high in tackles, Ron Turner, the then coach for Illinois, offered me a scholarship at the University of Illinois and tried to make the most of it. So I'm very indebted to Coach Turner. Gave me a shot and went up going to Illinois and have a good career.
And you mentioned Ron Turner, and that leads me into my next question. So you committed to Coach Turner, and then in 2005, Ron Zook's brought in. What was that transition like for you and the team?
I think Ron Zook at that time brought in just that SEC mentality of we're going to go everywhere to get the players that we need to get. I think Ron Turner tried to be more Midwest, tried to be local, and had some success doing that. But, you know, I know Urban Meyer was kind of credited with that, but it was really Ron Zook at Illinois who said, hey, we're going to go bring in Mike Loxley as our coordinator, who has great ties to the DC DMV area there in Maryland and Virginia and Washington, DC. We're going to recruit Florida really hard to try to bring in some Florida talent. and we'll recruit Ohio because Ohio has really good football players. And he did that. I think we went, I wouldn't say backwards, but we really had a hard first year. We lost like 63-10 on national TV to Penn State. I mean, it was bad, that Michael Robinson team. But in 2006, started getting close, but then didn't win many games. In 2007, had that breakthrough. But he just brought a new energy and some more players to Champaign. We were really short on talent at that time. And so he infused the talent with some experienced players that we had and created a special season there for us in 2007.
So you took a big leap from your sophomore year to your junior year. Was there something that clicked for you, or was it just a matter of maturing and the game slowing down a little bit?
I think early on I played probably too early. There just wasn't anybody else around. And so I was able to get into the games early, get some good game experience. It's also bouncing around between outside linebacker, strong side linebacker, playing up on the line as a Sam linebacker. And it was really Coach Zook and his decision to say, hey, I think you're a middle linebacker, which is what I played in high school. And that was in spring ball of 2006. Some of the middle linebackers that got banged up. First day of spring ball, they got hurt, and I actually moved in the middle linebacker, and my ability to read plays and play in a confined space was a better fit for me than playing in space and not be able to read as much guards and tackles. And so I think that was the big leap for me. Also had some really good defensive linemen in front of me. I think that really started to mature and kept me free. And so I think all those things really added on to it. And, I came into school about 200 pounds, and by the time I was a junior, I had grown about 1.5 inches and was 245. So there was a maturing process that certainly wasn't an early bloomer. It was a late bloomer my whole life. And then, I caught up finally that junior year in college.
In an earlier episode, I was talking with Ryan Miller, Ohio State linebacker, and he said no one's ever tackled Eddie George more than he has because he did it every day in practice. Talk about going against Rashad Mendenhall every day in practice.
Yeah, Rashad Mendenhall was really good. Actually, Pierre Thomas before him was actually really good as well. A long time NFL career. So we had some good backs. Rashad, I always remember we didn't have many 5-star guys at Illinois, but he was a 5-star guy along with Aurelius Ben. And I remember Rashad coming in as a freshman, his first workout. And I realized at that point why they had 5-star recruits and why I was a 2-star recruit, because they look different from day one. And he's always looked different. It was always a physical specimen. I think what I saw Rashad really improve on, though, was he got bigger and he was always fast, but his ability to not only make you miss, but run through you, and then the breakaway speed that nobody would ever catch him. I think that was a unique combination of Rashad, and just a good person, good leader as well.
2007 was the last time Illinois won the Illibuck Trophy. Talk to me about that 2007 game at Ohio State. They were number one. You had 12 tackles and 2.5 tackles for loss in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I started out really bad. I think we had a busted coverage, and I think Brian Hartline, now the offensive coordinator for the Buckeyes, I think he probably had an 80-yard catch, maybe down to the 2-yard line, or maybe it was a touchdown itself, but it was a big catch to start out. They scored 7 points early. Our offense responded very quickly against a defense that was only giving up like 7 points a game. They had a really good defense. Malcolm Jenkins and James Laurinaitis, and maybe Vernon Golston was on that team. I'm trying to figure out who was. Marcus Freeman was on that team. They had some players. They always do. And so really our offense kept us in the game that first quarter. We traded scores 14-14, and then we started to really lock in defensively. We scored late in that half, 21-14. And then in the second half, they initially started to drive on us. We were able to force a turnover in the red zone, got a pick in the end zone, and able to go up 28-14. They scored again, making it 28-21, and we got the ball left with 8 minutes and 33 seconds. And it was about 3rd and 2. We came up short, about 4th and 1 on the 33. And Zook was going to actually punt, but Jim Tressel thought he would go for it. So Jim Tressel burns a timeout. Well, then Zook decides, I'm going to go for it. 4th and 1. He goes for it on 4th and 1 on the QB sneak, gets it, and we end up running out the last 8 minutes and 33 seconds off the clock against Ohio State. So a very unique game that you would run the last 8 minutes and 33 seconds off the clock. Didn't even score that drive. We just ran it out, and that burned timeout really became a critical thing for Jim Tressel because they ran out of timeouts, and we picked up 3 first downs, I think 3rd and 5 or more each in that drive. One was a Mendenhall run, I think, and one was a juice run and something else, but it was an exciting moment. I never forget that when you beat the number 1 team in the country.
Would that be your best memory from your playing days, or maybe the Rose Bowl? What's your best memory from
I think that's the best game memory for sure. I also like the Rose Bowl experience. Obviously, the game didn't go great. We got beat by a very talented USC team. Not a lot of people talk about. In 2006, we went up to Michigan State, a good Michigan State team with Drew Stanton and whatnot, and upsetting them as 28-point dogs. And I still remember that as a great game as well because nobody thought you would win, and we weren't very good in 2006. So that was good. Zook's first game in 2005, honestly, we beat a really good Rutgers team with Brian Leonard and Ray Rice and Mike Teal, but they had some really good teams. and guys. And so we've beaten them as well. So there's a lot of good memories in Illinois.
The linebacker's often referred to as the quarterback of the defense. As the middle linebacker, when the offense is coming to the line, and what are you looking for that's going to tell you this is run, this is pass? What other things are you looking at that a fan watching the game has no idea what you are doing?
Well, I think there's, even before the play starts, there's a number of things that go on. Number one, are you ahead or are you behind? The score. Is it the first quarter? Is it the second quarter? Is it the third quarter? Is it the fourth quarter? So I think those are all go into your computer of your brain. Then I'm looking at, okay, what is the down and distance? Is it 1st and 10? Is it 2nd and 7? Is it 3rd and 2? 3rd and 13? Okay. What is the personnel? Meaning, is it 2 tight ends, 1 back, 1 tight end, 2 backs? Is it 4 receivers, no backs, and a tight end empty? Is it, what is the personnel? And so we're always going to look at the down and distance. We're always going to look at the personnel. And out of those down and distances and personnels, they're going to have 3 or 4 plays that their offense likes to run. They might be out of different formation. They might be whatnot, but then they're going to go into formation. So you've got down and distance, you've got personnel, you've got formation, and those all come out usually in that sequence. And if you know what you're doing, you're probably going to have a good chance that 2 or 3 of the plays, you're going to know that there's probably 2 or 3 plays they like to run out of these sets. You're always going to see something new and different. So you can't guess all the time, but that's going to give you advantage. And for me, I like to read my keys, which I always read guards through the tailback. And what's good about guards, if they pop up, it's a pass. If they are moving one way or the other, they're going to take you to the ball. And so understanding that about reading the guards, then finding out who's going to block you, and then going to make the tackle. Many people try to go make the tackle before you find out who's going to block you. That's unfortunate because you'll get dominated by the lineman who's going to block you because you're not trying to beat him first. And so those are some of the things that go through my mind as a linebacker.
And that leads me right into my next question. So if you're talking to young linebackers, high school or even younger, what's the one thing that you would tell them about teaching the position?
I think, where are your eyes at? Because I think your body's going to follow your eyes. Do you know how to read a key? I mean, at some point in junior football, it's all about see ball, hit ball. But you're going to make a transition where linemen are actually good enough and athletic enough, and there's going to be actual plays that you can read. Where are your eyes at? If you're looking at the quarterback and he does a reverse spin out to hand the ball off, well, he's spinning over to his right, but he's really trying to hand the ball over to his left, right? So it's like, you don't want to read the quarterback at that point. You don't want to read the tailback because they're quick enough to lie. You want to learn how to read the line, or at least feel the line in what you're doing. And that just takes reps. And at each level of football, the speed at which stuff happens and you have to calculate stuff becomes faster. And if you can get that speed and enough reps where it slows down, you can be a good football player.
All right. Well, let's get into the game. We've got Ohio State coming to Champaign to play Illinois. The opening line in this game was Ohio State favored by 16.5. It's now down to 14.5, but it still seems high to me. I feel like Vegas has made an overcorrection based on the Indiana game. The two teams are playing for the Illibuck trophy, and the last time, as we mentioned, Illinois won was 2007. If Illinois can get the win, I think that they would be favored in all their remaining games and be looking towards a Big Ten championship game appearance and a spot in the playoff. Both quarterbacks are playing at a really high level. Luke Altmyer and Julian Sain both have dynamic receiving cores with Hank Beatty and Colin Dixon for Illinois, Jeremiah Smith, everybody's all-world, and Carnell Tate for the Buckeyes. Ohio State's been a little bit more explosive on the ground, but these offenses I feel are really evenly matched. Defensively, Ohio State's been stingy, but they haven't faced a team that's currently ranked in the top 25. They've only allowed 2 touchdowns through 5 games and a total of 25 points. Illinois' defensive numbers aren't as good and skewed a little bit because of that Indiana game with the 63 points they gave up. I think the 2 keys to this game are going to be, 1, Illinois with a fast start and not get into a hole and have to play catch up and make sure you keep the crowd into the game. And 2, you've got to convert on 3rd down. Versus Indiana, Illinois had 1 drive of 8 plays. Everything else was 5 plays or less. They were 1 for 10 on 3rd down, and you've got to be able to sustain drives. Jay, when you look at this game, what do you think?
Well, I think for Illinois, what's been interesting is their run game has not been consistent. But when they play good fronts, last year when they played Michigan with Mason Graham, and this year when they played USC, they've run the ball really well. So if Illinois can run the ball, chew up clock, and set up the play action for Luke Altmyer, it's going to be a big bonus for him. I do think that Illinois has the edge at maybe one position, and that's the quarterback position, simply because the game experience that Luke Altmyer has that Julian Sain doesn't have. I'm not saying Julian Sain's not a good quarterback. I'm saying that Luke Altmyer could be an equalizer in this game. That being said, of course, if you're Illinois, you need the fast start, like you said. You need to win the turnover battle because you can't just go toe-to-toe show. And you got to be able to get off the field on third down. Look at the last couple games for Illinois. They have not got off the field on third down, especially against USC. Even against Purdue, had trouble getting off the field on third down. You've got to, if you do good on first, second down, you've got to do a good job of getting off the field on third down. And I think that everyone knows about Jeremiah Smith and Cornell Tell. I think Max Clare is going to be a matchup nightmare for some of the safeties. Max Clare could have a big game. They really struggled to guard McCree, the tight end for USC. And I think Max Clare is as gifted a tight end as you're going to see. And he really did well against Illinois in the Purdue game last year. Was playing for Purdue. So those are all things I think that you have to look out for.
I think Illinois plays a lot better in this game. Their defense is better than what they showed versus Indiana. And I think they're better than Washington, which lost 24-6 to Ohio State. I'm not confident yet in the pass defense for Illinois. I think if Gabe Akis can get after Sayin and put him on the ground a bunch, he doesn't have to get the sack, but make Julian Sayin a little uncomfortable back there. That's really going to help Illinois out. I think.
Can you make Julian Sayin beat you is the question, right? Because we heard about Ryan Day. We talk about, well, we don't want to put Julian Sayin in that situation. We want to protect him. We help his confidence. Can you make Julian Sayin beat you? There's a lot of players that can beat you on that football team. Make Julian Sayin beat you. Put pressure on him. Make him make critical throws. Make him take care of the football. Hit him. I think if you can do that, again, you have the advantage that you have a much more experienced quarterback.
Yeah, with the pass defense, that's where my question is. And so I think Smith or Tate get loose one or two times for a big play over the top. I've got Ohio State 24-17, really close competitive game. Again, I think the line is way too high in this game, and it's going to be a lot closer there. Jay, who do you see winning the game?
Yeah, I think there's going to be more points than that because Illinois, you look at them defensively, have really struggled as far as the yards given up. So, but I do think Illinois' offense is better than what they showed at that Indiana game. And so I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. I would say it's probably going to be 38-28 Buckeyes because I think Illinois is going to put some points on the board. That being said, anything can happen in a game like this. And number one teams get upset, and turnovers and red zone always become huge in games like this. Who can really execute during those times? And of course, 2 minute. If it's a close game, 2 minute usually goes to the more experienced quarterback. You'd hope that Illinois would have the advantage in that case.
That's why we love college football. Anything can happen on a Saturday, especially with a home underdog. Jay, thank you for joining us on Complete BS. You can follow the Complete BS pod on X and Instagram, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to Complete BS. Be sure to subscribe, share, and follow us online. And tell us what you think of this episode. Use hashtag CouchCoachNation, and let's keep the conversation going.